So when we were at the Timberwolves Oklahoma City game, that Timberwolves came back and won and was like crazy because Finch got thrown out. When he got thrown out, is on all these bad calls, and everyone in the crowd started chanting, "Ref, you suck! Ref, you suck!" And Alex immediately got up and started chanting that right away and was like all in. And then it was like an hour later, he's like, "Was that mean? Was I mean to that person?" And I was like, "Dude, this is like the tunnel, which is the book we're talking about this week. We are the 2 month review podcast from Open Letter at the University of Rochester, and we take a big book and we talk about it bit by bit, section by section. We are doing The Tunnel by William Gass. Today we are talking about the section Susu, so I See You in Dreams. Should have looked this up ahead of time. Whatever it is. The Susu section that goes up to page 533.
Mhm.
I'm Chad Post from Up a Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox. How are you, Brian?
Fantastic. Happy to be here. Glad I'm not in this lawless Minnesotan environment. Who would have thought that the honest, good values of the Midwest is just deteriorating the entire fabric of the United States? Very similar to, Kohler and his ideas of Indiana and the heartland.
100%. I looked out my window and there's agitators. Like they're just
Oh, yeah.
all out here right now, just agitating all over the place, trying to run people over unsuccessfully.
If ice had been around, a little over 100 years ago, I think that whole agitate, 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 we would have like sent him away. I don't know where to, but he would have been gone. Get out of here.
And also joining as the other co-host, Kaija Straumanis, editor at Coffeehouse Press. How are you, Kaija?
Hello. I am agitated. I am agitated and upset as I hope the rest of the world is, the rest of the state and country. Um,
About that coach getting thrown out?
Yeah.
that was super wrong. He had every right to yell.
Yeah.
Also, I guess yeah, just will point out what Chad mentioned or said before that this ICE agent has been hit by cars two previous times. Like
You
live and
mean
learn, man. This is the Darwin effect. Like you just take them out. Like
I mean, these people should have finished the job.
yeah, right.
You get
He's
more
asking
points
for it.
for
He's
you get
literally
more
asking for
points.
it. Yeah, other than being upset at what happened in Minnesota yesterday and what continues to happen in our country and because of our country around the world, I'm doing pretty okay. How are you,
Yeah.
Chad?
I just want to say fuck ice. I just want to make sure that that's on record. So make sure
Yep,
that
ditto. Seconded.
and if anyone's
Motion
listening
approved.
from the Trump government, you can get fucked too. I don't give a shit anymore. Especially Christy Nome.
Mm.
Anyways, so we got a book to talk about. I don't know if there's any
Yay.
more. I don't know how you do banter under the guise of like two potential wars and ice shooting. So,
Well, especially when one of the sections is called How to Be a Bigot.
how to be a bigot, my favorite section of this book. I love that part. I love that part so much.
Because
And
it's about driving.
well, oh, the earlier part about learning how to drive, I also love because, although
Yeah.
not as much, but the bigot one I particularly love. And I'm going to make the argument over the case of this episode that this is the most moral book that could be written, that has been written. This is taking John Gardner's like on moral fiction sort of stance. I think this book is a morally upright book, despite everything that we sort of categorize it as.
I think that initially seemed like a pretty wild swing of a statement when you said it a few days ago to us, but then I did get to the section where Kohler kills the cat, and I realize now after the fact that considering that Kohler killing the cat is somehow like the most shocking part of this book so far, I think you're right.
You didn't even make your joke.
Oh, about Kohler crushing pussy? Yeah. Crushing pussy in more ways than one. Yeah,
He strangled
I
the
mean,
cunt cuddler.
the cunt cuddler. That's yeah, that's pretty, that could be a meta thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm jumping way ahead, but just to point that out, that was one moment. Maybe it's because I think animals are maybe more moral than humans, but one moment where that happened and I was just it's like, what the fuck? And then realized that I did not really say that for anything else in the book so far. I didn't react that strongly. I was just kind of reading through it. So tell us more, Chad. Give us more information.
We'll get
Or
there,
Brian.
Brian.
One question before we get into that. So we had the really kind of shocking question of Culp, which kind of unravels a lot of reality, or it makes you question. Like we knew from the get go, all right, we get first person POV, which automatically kind of puts us in that unreliable mode, and then it's kind of like the spectrum of, well, how unreliable are you? Is this like American Psycho unreliable? Are we looking at, and he's proven himself to be fairly unreliable. So we're questioning everything, and then this section seems to be so grounded in like this reality of the dream and the present, the dream and and we get these like back and forth, which is supposed to give us like this three-dimensional understanding of this tunneling twerp. But now that like I realize the author, Gas, was so like deeply steeped in philosophy, like that was his training and that was his vocation. Like I'm starting to wonder if this is more like a meditation on ontology.
Oh, interesting.
Like
Say
what
more.
like what is that?
Say more.
And
Okay.
yes, say more. And I was going to say, for those of us who are going to look it up on Google for a second, define ontology.
Because like I kind of thought of it like, yeah, like moral guilt and innocence or this or that, but like I'm starting to wonder like what is real and how do we uh like like in particular, I know we get a lot about Herschel in this, and Herschel's a really like each one of these coworkers, or like some are mentors, some are father figures, some are adversaries, some are doppelgangers. They're starting to feel like parts of Kohler's interior wrestling with one another. One
Mhm.
justifying their existence, or two supporting his self hatred and self loathing for different parts of himself. So it starts to unravel reality for me, especially in this one with the way like his reveries of Susu, like who she was and what she was, but also like that longing for that. Like there's the longing for the physical part of her, and then trying to like to balance that with like who she was
Mhm.
and what happened to her. And then you can do that with the current state of Kohler. With, is he really digging a hole? Is he really hiding dirt in people's furniture and his wife's furniture? Does he really murder the cat that is preventing him from having sex with his wife? Like, really?
Yeah.
And so for me, like I start looking at everything. I feel like there's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm using the term correctly because I'm not a philosopher and I barely passed my like I just took prerequisite philosophy. I took like 12 units of philosophy. So I'm like, I'm a on that Dunning Kruger. I'm like, hell yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I'm an idiot, right? Like I don't know anything. But I feel like more than like epistemological or more than I don't know. It just feels, this feels like more ontological than anything.
It's interesting, and that sort of I did take a lot of philosophy classes. I was a minor,
Okay.
but it doesn't mean shit at all, especially at this point in time. But that's sort of where like my Kantian thing is like the nature of being and the nature of of what's real and what is
I thought you were going to say the nature of white supremacy.
the nature of white
That's
supremacy.
where my mind. It feels very prescient right now. I'm sorry, as if it ever went away, but like it feels really prescient right now.
It sure does. This is a bad
Yeah.
time. No, in terms of like being and in terms of like objective reality. as well, or is like what is real, and like part of it, like that internal thing that you're pointing to of like what are these people real? What is he saying is real? But also like that the content thing that I always talk about of like you only get to see there's the modes of understanding what's real, and those modes are all partial. And that the reason that this isn't, I don't know if this is a good segue or not, but the reason that I was going to argue that this is the most moral book is that this book asks the question over and over again of where does hatred come from? Like, where does this fascism come from? And kind of goes through and
Sexless marriage.
sexless marriage,
That's the
Cats
only
shitting in your tunnel.
shitty ass colleagues. Like but then in this section particularly, is it inherited? Do you learn it from your parents?
parents.
Every one of these is like a partial part of it. And the thing that I was talking to Jeremy Garber from Powell's about this and explaining to him like why this book is so interesting, but is that after you read this, almost everything I think that's in those lines, I don't think anyone would I don't know if anyone claims that they never have like shitty small person thoughts about like, especially in the section where you talk about driving and you're like swearing at people and yelling at them and having that sort of like over the top reaction, calling them all sorts of names that are inappropriate. We all have those impulses. And now, anytime that one of those impulses starts to surface, I think of this book and think that's part of this. That's part of this situation that he's describing. That's part of the fascism. That's part of the things I've learned. Like I see like my mom's passive aggressiveness and text and like things that are like shitty and think, man, I learned it from them. And now I'm replicating it the way that he did. I call people all sorts of names that aren't slurs, that aren't
Yeah.
ethnic slurs, that aren't like bigoted in that way, but are bigoted in a different way where it's like, you dumb fuck, you can't drive, get the fuck off this road, I should run you over. Like shit like that comes up and it's like mirrored here, and it's not Nazi like necessarily, but the impulse is the same of like things
Hmm.
didn't work out, the party of the disappointed people, like you're still like got that little bit, and anytime that starts to surface, now I'm like and this book has forced you to reflect in that way. So in that sense, I think it's the most moral book that I can read.
Okay.
The one that challenges me in reading this, and like maybe this would just be like a brief moment of like therapy sessions with using Williams gas the tunnel.
Yeah.
Is like the one that hits hard is like if I put myself in 1930s Germany, it's like I don't know, I don't think I would join the Nazi party.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I would be a part of that. And so I feel good about that. Like I'm on the right side of history. Like cool. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't do that. If I try to like really put because there's some like good people that were Nazis.
Yeah.
And like for me, like with my moral superiority of looking back through time, and be like no good person could be. You can't be a good person to be a Nazi. Not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was there early, and then I saw what it was, and I got out. Like I don't care. Like no. So I feel like really like I don't think I'd be a Nazi. And then I asked like, all right, well then would you have like hidden Jews in your house?
Hmm.
Ah, boy, that could get you in a lot of trouble.
I don't know, I want to die.
You
Yeah.
know, like because I always like I feel so good about myself. You watch these movies, you read these things, you're like, yeah, like I'd find a place in the attic for him, and I would, hell yeah, I would be part of the resistance. And it's like, I don't know, what am I doing now to help the resistance? What am I doing now to? It's like nothing. But were you a part of it? No, I was like adamantly against this
Yeah.
regime. I'm like no. So like 70 years from now, they're gonna look at somebody like me and be like, you were evil.
You're kind of complicit.
You were the bad
Yeah.
person. You weren't
Yeah.
just because you don't have the uniform, just because you didn't have the mask on, doesn't mean. And like that's what's like the morality of this, like you're saying, the moral questions in this book, like the guilt and the innocence, like everyone is guilty, no one is innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
And how do you
Yeah.
process that?
And to think that you're not is like I feel like it's the trap that's been set up for us to allow it to happen.
That this kind of goes back to when you're listening, because you still are, but listening to the audiobook and like how in a way, I feel like that it makes you more sympathetic. Like this
Mm,
does then, as you become that, you realize, yeah, you make it, it becomes moral. It sort of transforms
Mhm.
itself into being like a moral thing because you can sympathize with him, recognize these problems, and then see them in yourselves and react to them. Like that's
Yeah.
the benefit of reading theoretically under all these like
yeah.
arguments that are made about reading making you a better person, expanding your mind, giving you access to different viewpoints, blah, 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 blah. The reaction to that is, should be in this instance, oof, but like this is a book that, fucking like Nick Fuentes or that shitty asshole Charlie Kirk, don't rest in peace, or Alex Jones would take it a totally different way. I think they would
Yeah.
take it possibly in a totally different way. So if you are moral, I think this is a moral book, but maybe if you're not, you're like celebrating the sort of shittiness.
And that, I mean, that leads to a question that occurred to me just now is that are we, like all three of us seem to be, and I think the guests we've had on seem to largely be interpreting this book, or at least setting it, paralleling it against what's going on in the world right now. Do you think we would have had any parallels to draw, or do you think we'd be reacting in the same way if everything was fine and dandy? I mean, we read Vineland and then this. It's like, is it
Next
just
is
a,
a
is it
dictator. So
literally, yeah, is it literally a product of our times? Is our collective reaction a product of our times? Or is it something, is it just the book? I don't know that I can make this question make sense, but I'm just wondering how much of our reaction is suggestion from the text and how much of it is the climate in the outside world.
I feel like it's pretty global and released from time because if you have any government and you have any kind of strata and you have any power structure, like there's going to be people with thumbs and people under the thumbs.
Hmm.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
the learning to be a bigot part of this is about like not even like that larger like political context or governmental context, but that the people building a house next door to you don't look like you and fuck them is kind of like
Mm.
his father's like reaction to this,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that's always there. Like if
Yeah.
unless Trump and Stephen Miller have their way and this is just a white Christian nation and there's no otherness to it, like everywhere that you would be has that. And
Hmm.
outside of that, like because history has forever, used borders to create violence and used borders to create that differing and like a sense of superiority, it's impossible for me to imagine that particular beginning point of this sort of fascism of the heart will always have been there and would be there throughout the world, regardless of like what your situation is. Also, this came out in 96, right? And like that's like kind of the best last era, and then immediately becomes, awful.
Hmm.
With George Bush and like the various wars that we get involved in very
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, but the
Like
postmodernists, I think they saw the writing on the wall with like maximalist, untethered, like just
it,
capitalism.
and entropy.
Yeah, I think because you can look to lots of works that kind of are
Hmm.
all pointing to like this doesn't end well.
Yeah. Especially if you're a cat.
Yeah.
Get fucked. Get squished.
In terms of like,
Um,
yeah, it does. I've been listening to a lot of stuff about like Indian history because of the book that we have coming out, Fortress of the Forgotten Ones, and just general interest. And in terms of like the Hindu cosmology and saying that there are these four ages and we're in the last darkest age of life, the Kali Yuga era, in which everything, the description of it in this sort of like lesson podcast, great lecture thing I'm listening to, was that at this point in time, no one will know what they're really supposed to be doing. Everything will be confusion. People won't be able to communicate. It's all fragmented and broken. It's all like the typical postmodern sort of like taglines, right?
We
And
could all
also
blame Foucault. It's all Foucault.
yeah, Foucault set this all in motion.
It's only him.
And
Asshole.
Derrida, like,
I mean, what comes after the fourth period? Do we
You and
reset
that
everything
to
lazy
one or are we
dies.
just done?
that
Everything dies and
lazy-eyed
then it's
asshole.
reborn.
Him and that
Oh,
lazy-eyed
but it,
asshole.
okay, but it gets reborn. Okay.
Reborn.
That's what I want
It
to
is
hear.
perfect for whatever it was, like
Yeah.
100,000 trillion years or something. But
Oh man, to get to that point though.
yeah, so I
Real quick, Kaya, again to like show the like just how insane Gas is as a writer. the saying like strangling a cat. What
Hmm.
does that mean?
What do you mean?
Like who's strangling the cat? Like that weird idiom.
That's an idiom? You mean like
Well,
just someone's like screaming or like just like
it's a bad singer.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's like an
yeah.
old timey way of saying you're a bad singer, right?
Okay, sure, yeah. Well,
Strangling a cat.
Susu was a singer.
Susu was a singer, and
So
so he
is
has like the when you start layering this cat thing, that just struck me right now when you
yeah,
said that.
yeah. I mean,
It's like
Susu,
it's like
I
oh my
haven't
god, this guy's
yeah.
fun. This guy's a lot of fun.
He's a lot of fun. Kohler's a good time.
Uh,
Um, I mean, Gas is a lot of fun,
Gas is a
honestly.
lot of
yes.
fun. Like it's holy crap, man.
Kohler does not sound like a good time. I mean,
No, no.
bro is putting dirt in basement furniture. Like,
That is
just
the
bring it
funniest
outside.
shit to me.
Just
That
bring
is
it
the funniest
outside.
shit to me. Yeah,
Uh,
you're gonna make a big pile. I love the idea
like
of just like
someone's gonna find
packing
that
it in.
cat. Someone's
Packing
gonna
it in.
find that. No, Martha's gonna go looking for something in the basement, and in the words of Rafi from the league, you know what? She's gonna find her fucking cat. She's gonna find it in a drawer of dirt.
It's like some weird domestic the movie The Great Escape, where they're
Yeah,
whistling that lovely
yeah.
little song, and they're playing baseball in the prison yard, and Steve McQueen or
It is
Charles
Steve
Bronson shakes
McQueen.
his leg, and a little sachet of dirt goes down, trying to hide all
Little
the
by
tunneling
little.
dirt to get out.
That part of him like
Yeah.
getting caught where he's like all dirty and like carrying things down. Although like there's something about that. I have to go back to that scene, but I think there's something that like she seems to come home at a weird time and is like, oh yeah, he's grocery shopping or whatever. I was like, Martha's out getting some. Martha's
I
having a
mean,
good time
you would
somewhere
hope
else.
so. She's doing something that removes her so much from the rest of that domestic scene because where he's like, oh, she'll see my dirt, but she's just like, okay, here are the bags, put them wherever, I don't care, and turns around and leaves. Like Martha's checked out.
I also
Martha
I also
gives zero fucks.
I also love the idea of her just buying more and more dressers and big bulky furniture that doesn't fit anywhere and just shoving it into like a hallway that you can't fit through. I love that. Like again, like I think I said this last time, but like stepping back to that big view and imagining this house with all this shit like really happening is like super funny. And like a Kohler figure just like pottering around, super funny. Just being like, fucking hate everyone, goddamn fucking sky, like so good.
He's
If I
so
was making
happy in
this
his tunnel.
cinematically, you would have to have like a neighbor that periodically just looks through the blinds into the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the Kohlers up to again?
Like, whoa, look at that.
It would
It's-
make a great Hitchcock movie.
It really would. It would. So of the three sections, that first one, the Susu one, that one I found the most complicated to get through. Like there's
Mm.
that merging of like it is dreamlike. There's like the stuff from the Midwest, the stuff from like Germany, her. The thing that I don't have a segue for, but I want to talk about is what you were talking about the Book of Judges, Brian. Do you want to set that up and explain what you said before we got on here?
The Book of Judges. So yeah, in the Jewish Bible or Christian Old Testament, you have Judges. It comes after sequentially. It comes after Joshua. So like the setup is Moses takes the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. They wander the desert. Uh, Spoiler alert: Moses dies and doesn't get to go into the Promised Land, and so Joshua takes them in, and he's like a military. He's like the military arm. So he's has the conquest of Canaan. So after that, now they settle, and Joshua ends with like that famous quote you'll see on like people's walls if they're religious, like "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." So he does like this big, address to the 12 tribes and says like, "We should serve God. Look how good God has been to us. Look where we are." And so then Judges happens, and like they immediately just like stop serving God and just become hideous, awful. Like it is the most like rancid old text you could read. It is full of murder and rape, and it is just like terrible. And it ends. It's capped off with a woman is brought forth before this town, and the whole town ravages her until she dies. And then they cut her body into pieces and spread her to like each of the tribes, so they each have a piece of her body as like a, I don't know what, but it's like the end. That's like it is. It is capital M man giving in to his evil heart and his carnal desires, and that's kind of the warning of this book. Like if you lose your compass and are given to yourself, this is what you're going to have.
Yeah, yeah, and which seems to be like sort of linked into here. I have the Moses. When I was 6 years old, I was floated from my birthplace in a basket. I wrote Moses next to that section.
Shit, I wrote Superman.
Superman is also one. That's true. I mean, Superman is Moses, right?
I wrote Marlon Brando phoning it in, is what I wrote. Damn it.
Oh my God, so true. But that first section, yeah, is tough and has like a lot of different is disorienting or was disorienting to me because of the sort of
Mm.
juxtaposition of stuff. It was slower going. And then we get the second section where he's learning to drive and things really pace up. And then we get the part of being a bigot. Oh, sorry, there's down and dirty too. And then where the
Yeah.
cat dies and everything with the
I
tunnel.
mean, the cat, I'm sorry, the cat's murdered. The cat's shot 3 times in the face and murdered
Pow, pow,
as it
pow.
as it was pulling away from the tunnel.
The cat was trying to run. The cat had its body turned
The cat's body
the
was
way.
turned.
Um yeah. And then so there are four sections again, which is
But
something
again,
I
there's
mentioned.
another one with Down and Dirty. It's this constant intersection of the erotic and physical
Mm.
atrocities,
Hmm.
or like
That's
the
true.
erotic and the physical, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of sort of heavy, comma, half fetishization of things. I would say full fetishization, but we don't.
I, I was flipping through and I don't want to forget to say this, even though it doesn't relate to what we're saying. 501 reference, if there's a bottom nature, that's a term that's used in Making of Americans over and over and over and over and over, like
Mm.
4,000 times. But then, yeah, so then we have learning to drive, where his dad's trying to teach him how to drive, which has a brilliant part about cars being like everyone getting in debt just to be able to have a car so that you can be in your own personal space and yell at people in your comfort of your area. As someone who does not have a car at this point in time, I'm all there for it. And then the being a bigot part, which is really also like the tops. So in a way, though, what I was gonna say is that it moves from this very complicated, like dense, Joycean, dream-ridden, like sort of hard to get your footing sometimes, sort of spacey thing, then goes into through his tunnel into this driving part, which almost read to me like a wannabe sitcom in a way because it's like at the end of it, his dad's like, "You need to learn how to drive. You need to learn how to do manual, not fucking automatic. Here's like a fake manual thing that you could pretend you're jacking his." And then anytime he's like screwing up and the imagination and the imaginary way of driving a manual car, his dad's like grinding gears and shit. Like, what are we doing? And then it ends with like him crashing into the rose bush or whatever, which is like a stereotypical like sitcom thing. And then you go immediately from there into the bigot part where it's clear that like he didn't learn how to drive from his dad, the practical things, but he did learn how to be a bigot in a
Mm.
very specific way. But the dream into reality and into like a very basic, very straightforward. That last part is just basically like, I mean, very direct, very filled with slurs, filled with all that stuff, but not it's not complicated. It's very easy to read, very very straightforward. I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting because I don't know I understand why there's so many of these have four parts to them. Almost always have four parts, and like they're each fairly distinct in terms of like their approach or at least what their focal point is.
The
And
style too.
and the style, yeah, is very different between one and four in here. But like, why four and why? How do these all match together under the Philippic title of Susu? I will see you in my dreams. Is that what it is? I keep blanking on it. Sorry, and everyone that's listening probably knows exactly what it's called. Um,
Susu, I approach you
approach
in
you.
my
That's
dreams.
I
Yeah.
approach you in my dreams. But I think that like structurally, I don't quite know what that is, but I think it's kind of interesting.
Hmm.
But in terms of this,
Quatrain.
what yeah, I have for this mostly just marked like sections like that I thought were really interesting related to that kind of moral idea, but also this thing that keeps cycling back of like, how do you end up here? How do you end up in this space? Like, is it inborn? Is it learned? Is it caused by like the nature of reality? Where is this coming from? Is maybe you're like ontological or I don't know if it's hermeneutic, whatever, like coming to understand where that is coming from and coming to come to terms with that, both in terms of like Kohler's kind of own writing of this is sort of an investigation of himself, a very honest investigation of like who he is, admitting who he is, and asking like why am I like this? Like, where is all this from? But also Gas asking that. Like, even in the 60s and 70s in particular, you're surrounded by things that are starting to become the Vietnam War that he's objecting to. There are a lot of instances where there are bad things happening and people representing this. Like, where is this? What is the origin of it? And at some point you can make the argument that America is born this way and is born and bred like this. But on an individual level, like if you acknowledge that there are these impulses that could easily become much broader and much bigger, like why do we feel like that? Why aren't we calmer, more kind, more loving? Are humans at their core vile people that want that have a rage or have an anger or have like a chip, or we're kind of probably supposed to be both, but nevertheless, like in here, focusing on that, like we're vile or bad people on some level.
Hmm. Well, I think what you were saying earlier about how you felt like with the yelling at people in the cars thing, that self-reflection and that element of it, um, I just lost my train of thought, unfortunately, but I think that's important. I think the looking at these things and seeing that, recognizing that as your behavior or as parts of your own behavior, um, is, I mean, I think is kind of what we hope that society experiences. Like, people talk about, talk to your, like, treat people how you want to be treated, or like talk to your kids in certain ways, like, display proper behaviors, like display, you know, non-bigoted behaviors, display anti-racist behaviors, display, being a kind, good human. And when you don't, and when you see that shit thrown back in your face, that might need to happen more. Like we might need to experience books like The Tunnel more to be reminded that this is what we all kind of look like sometimes. And it's not kind of, it's just cringy. It's gross.
And like the holding up the mirror to yourself thing. But
Hmm.
instead, like society is not doing that. Instead, we have, as we name
No.
bastards on this episode and name all the bastards, that piece of shit fucker Elon Musk just opening Twitter in like a Hitler-like way to allow the opposite to happen. Like
Yeah.
instead of having guide rails where you like try and enforce like this is bad, like you shouldn't be doing this. Instead, it's like, oh no, that's what free speech is. Not in except free speech doesn't include being woke or whatever. And so like encouraging I'm listening to If Books Could Kill about his biography, and there's one part where it he references that the biggest problem with Twitter before he bought it was that people would call other people Nazis. Not that they performed Nazi-like behaviors or said things. It was that the woke people were calling them Nazis, and that's not appropriate speech. Name
Which,
all the bastards.
I mean, I think about this sometimes where at least my algorithm for threads through Instagram, there are so many more positive interactions and people hyping up other people interactions than I've seen on Twitter, Instagram, like any other platform, I think. And it probably is just the algorithm, but it's so noticeable, and it's really nice sometimes to just fire up that app and have people be like, I felt really nice in my shirt today. Here's a picture of me. And then having like 18,000 people like it and be like, you get it. Like, go get your day. You look amazing. Like, you did something good. And it makes me, I mean, similarly, it makes me feel good and that there's hope for humanity, and it makes me want to be part of the positivity and put more of that out into the world. Um,
That and some
and
recipes with cream cheese.
yeah, yeah, and cream cheese and jello and marshmallows. Um,
One pan dump
one
and cook.
pan. And so, I mean, the opposite, where you have this this marked string of sociopathy in people like Elon Musk and I mean, I think I am starting to believe that a lot of the sort of pro Musk and pro Trump people on Twitter are bots, but like that's just like an echo chamber of fascist, bigoted bots, and people are still on there. Normal people, real people are still on there seeing this stuff, and it enrages you and it makes you mad and it gets you fired up and it makes you say things. And I don't know where I'm going with all this, but except that it's yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about the holding a mirror up to your face and seeing how you behave and how you are, and a lot of the things, like I've never killed a cat, for example, but you know, how many times have I walked by the
You've
cats
thought
and
about it?
gone,
But you
I've done
would.
this to
Yeah.
them. I've done this to them, like in the air, like
Sure.
across the room. But I've never gone all the way
One
with
thing
cat killing.
related to what you talk about with postmodernism, Brian, and like the versions of that, and the mirror thing that I forgot to say was that there's always the like sort of like neo-realistic writing is holding a mirror up to the world and describing what's there and being all that. This is another way of representing life through a mirror, but is not as prominent within like the MFA world of things, but is just as realistic, as just as much realism in like a true sense of that word as what we consider to be realistic writing. It's just a different form of it, or the mirror's tilted differently, but it is still that. He is still presenting life. He is presenting life in all of its whatever term you want to use. But it isn't that far removed from that. So like sort of the shitting on postmodernism aspect that people take of it not being realistic or whatever is like a very small form of what that term could mean, or how that term could be interpreted and explored like in terms of literature or in this medium. Brian, you look very deep in thought.
No, I was thinking of like Mirror versus Black Mirror, and I feel like it's more of a Black Mirror than just a reflective mirror.
Like bringing out the just only showing the blackness.
Well, like where it becomes more symbolic and meditative, more so than an actual reality or something to. Because like for me, it's like the difference between um, like a confession versus changing as a person. Like
Oh yeah.
like like it's one thing to confess, like great, but like it doesn't mean you're good. It doesn't mean you're absolved. It doesn't mean like I feel like we get more like confession more so than uh, like some sort of like introspection of I need to change, or like there's definitely, if anything, it's almost as if we're getting excuses, which makes me think again. I just keep going back to this Susu character. Susu, I approach you in my dreams, and there's like this, like Susu's not like, you shouldn't fantasize about her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know. My read on it is like when you're a Nazi sympathizer. Do I have the right read on Susu? Like, aside from a singer and a paramour, like what was she?
She's the other. I see it as like the representation of the other. So like it would be completely taboo for a Nazi sympathizer to fall in love with a gypsy or a Jew or a black person. And so she's the other. I mean, you can look all you want, but you can't touch. And there are people who are going to get off on that. And then, you know, the way he talks about her dismemberment, like clearly that isn't a deterrent in his memories or dreams or fantasies.
Kind of like the Republicans addicted to like trans porn.
But wasn't she like complicit with the Nazis?
I assume, I mean, okay, my take was that she was
Like, what's her
like kind of,
history with them?
I thought it was just kind of like a like courtesan under duress or paramour under duress. It didn't seem it didn't seem fully consensual. It seemed like
Right.
a you do or you die. That
Sure.
was my read. It seemed like a you do or you die, except in her case and the case of many other women like her, it was always going to be die.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
a
know if you
form of
guys had a
collaboration.
different, yeah,
Like there's so
but
many
you thought there
people.
was like collaboration.
Well, like in the sense that like you go along with certain things to keep your ass in alive.
Yeah,
And that's also a form of guilt after it's over. Like look at
yeah,
France, like all the different people during the occupation that were like, they turn the blind eye or like we're like,
yeah.
oh yeah, we can not publish that sort of thing for the next few years. That's okay. Like that is also very bad in the
Hmm.
end. Like I mean I have situations that I won't get into, but like people who I know that support certain other people, I would never talk to them because they're supporting like essentially a bad fucking MAGA situation. And like
Yeah.
even if they're like, well, I'm a good person, I'm not doing it, it doesn't matter. Like you're enabling something that I think is horrible. You're
You're a
horrible.
sympathizer.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm off on another tangent here, but nevertheless. But
Yeah. I
I
get
yeah.
that.
The other thing that we've talked about several times, and I did a quick Google search and I didn't do much. I've not read, to be honest, and sort of disappointed in myself. My guilt in relation to the season is I wanted to read a lot more pieces about this book as we went along, and I did not do that. And I did a quick search like in bed as I was falling asleep for like humor plus gas plus the tunnel, and like nothing really came up. But there's so many parts of this book that are so fucking funny. Like even that like sitcom-y thing, I forgot that the last line of it is like him like he crashes the car, his dad's yelling at him, whatever, and his last line is damn you, Doris, I said, which is the name of they give to the car. That's like kind of a funny bit, but they're like
Yes.
the bits of like making up the gear noises, even these rants that he goes on where he's like, well, I don't, my anger at people isn't so like tied to their race or the way they look. Like my dad would see someone and be like, must be a wop. Mine instead is saying things like, you got a cunt for a nose and fuck your face. And I'm just like, this is funny as shit. This is super funny. This book is very funny, but I feel like you're not supposed to really say that because, ew.
Sure. Sure.
So I
But
feel
also,
like
like
I
again, like this is a character. Okay, so like you blame the car for you crashing, you blame the cat for you like
cat
having
shitting. The cat
right,
For
like
you blame the cat for you putting your hand in the cat species.
yeah.
yeah, like it's always somebody else's fault. It's some other system. It's not you.
That is right here. In order to understand a bigot from the inside, you need to know what it is like to have a set of feelings you prize beyond price, and of which you are at the same time ashamed. You prize them because they are all that sustain you. The record of the crimes against you, the history of your years of endurance, of the broken promises you have replaced with the one you've now made to yourself, a kingdom to come with revenge as a reward. So again, like the sort of you've always been put down, you've never gotten your thing, it's always someone else's fault. They're all to blame, but you're going to get your revenge eventually. Which is like truly like I feel at this point we are circling the same sort of ideas on some level over and over and over again. And I can't remember if it was Chris or Ted or someone mentioned that like the opening is kind of bombastic and huge, and then it gets kind of unpacked bit by bit by bit as you go
Hmm.
along. And I think that at that point we are tunneled into for like where you're at that point where it's like, yes, this is how you become. Yes, he's saying the same sort of thing again, but in a different, beautiful way, and maybe expanding on an aspect of it. But generally, that main theme has been beaten and beaten and beaten. Of like, you feel like you didn't get what you wanted, you're gonna get it later. That's okay. That's where this impulse comes from. And how it shows up in the world in all these different formats and different situations is what he's investigating. But that core concept just keeps circling, or I keep
Hmm.
focusing on it maybe and keep talking about it instead of moving on to something else.
I mean, you said I was gonna ask a question, then you said revenge, so I feel like I know the answer, but do you guys think Kohler is do you think Kohler has any interest in being a better person? Or
No.
is he pretty content? No, okay.
Oh,
No,
like,
it's all self-loathing. He is. I feel like he is so. I don't know. He just feels so upset that he didn't get what he wanted.
Hmm.
I mean, it's one of those things like the question of like when you have those impulses or say or do something, you tweet something that you regret and you have the guilt from it. Maybe this is a Catholic thing, maybe it's just an everyone thing, but you have that guilt from it. And one of the ways to alleviate that guilt is to blame someone else for the action that you did. It was
Hmm.
caused, it was precipitated by this person doing this. So had to do that, right? And then
Yeah.
you feel guilty about it, but then you can be like, well, I'm not really guilty. It's their fault for this. I deserve my revenge or get better. But I don't think he's trying to get better because I think he wants to have this party, the party of disappointed people, that there is a
Mm.
tribe, a rising up. Isn't that in this section where it's like there's sort of like the grassroots coming together of people all hating the same people, which is like what we're this section I texted you guys is the most MAGA section that we have read, in my opinion. Like it is very much about the tribal nature of like coming together to hate certain people. And given the context of this week, it's like, Jesus fuck, man. This is like right on point. And like you say, Kai, would it have been this, 5 years ago? Probably not to the same extent. Like you wouldn't have seen it the same way, but you would have seen the writing on the wall. Everything's been moving in this direction for a very long time. But the this is the one that felt the most MAGA to me of like someone and tying it in with last week's one where it's like, well, Hitler wasn't as bad as the people who put people in concentration camps. He just allowed you to do the things that you wanted to do anyways. Like
Yeah.
that if there's someone who were to say that, aka Trump, then this kind of like movement of we all don't like the what does he call them, the toot toots or the toot twats that are
Mr.
next door to
Toot
him.
Toot.
And the toot twats is when they're once because I was like, man, that's my quote unquote like go to for calling people names is twat. And so I love that that's there. But like they're all like the way that he talks about that and the way that he's like, well, of course there's dads like they're gross, they're evil, they're gonna be roaches because of course they're gonna do blah blah blah. Like that sort of mentality as like a on writ large is like a rising up of people who are disappointed, angry, losing something that they think is owed to them, blah blah blah, and then being enabled to act upon that is both our situation and like part of the big core of this book that that's what the Nazi sympathizers were. We're just like
Yeah.
people who learn to hate because you all learned how to hate or you hate internally for one reason or another, didn't get what you deserved. Someone says, here's a switch, do what you want. There we go. Then you feel guilty, but you want to feel innocent, so you blame someone else.
Yeah.
Life is great. The bigot is born with a fear of failure. Love that. I mean, this
So
section,
do we? I'm trying to remember. Like, what did? I guess it doesn't really. The detail doesn't matter. But like, so Susu does terrible things to the Jews, and she's assuming that's going to like keep her safe,
I mean, yeah,
right?
I would assume so.
Hey, you all are doing bad things to people. I'll do that too. Like, I'm good now, right? No, 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 no,
Yeah.
because you're also like a gypsy. So, oh
Yeah.
crap. And
Didn't think it through.
and I'm just wondering if this eroticism that we have with her and this like undying infatuation and longing that Kohler has for her is that he probably has like that link where I have hate too, but I'm not one of them, and I don't want to be one of them.
Hmm.
But do I get to survive the next regime if I'm hating the right person,
Right,
or
right,
right, or if I?
right. So
It's
like
like it's like you want to be an other and you want to be different, but you're kind of not.
yeah. So
yeah.
like at the beginning of the book, I was convinced that he had an affair or had been involved with Susu, and Chad said no. So like what to your point, Brian, if all he does is fetishize and like covet from afar and he doesn't touch, doesn't get involved, then he is not complicit in her demise or in her ruin.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what we were saying earlier of like, well, like if I say the Nazis are bad, but then I don't go out and protest them, like am I like who am I helping anyone? Am I making any difference if I just like, you know, does my silence to keep me safe also make me an apologist? Like, yeah, it's such a complex thing. Um,
Should we all be following the French 75 from one battle after another?
yeah, yeah.
Truly, true, true, honest question. Yeah, this the Susu one is so complicated. I feel like that, like picking apart that section, like you guys have a better handle on her and on that than I do.
The other thing that like I'm just being very of the moment, like I find it so interesting. So you have this Susu character. There's like this intersection of atrocities and the kind of erotic aspect of it, and there really is like an erotic aspect of violence too. If we really like wanted, like that's a whole nother thing to get into, or
Hmm.
just the idea of like forget the spiritual and let's just think about the flesh and carnal, and you can go down that whole thing too. But what I find interesting is like this attraction that there is with Susu, and then like when I'm thinking now of like the clothes of evil that we're seeing in the world, and like think of like the last 30 years of like something like Fox News, and now like CNN's trying to catch up, but like you just roll out aesthetically pleasing messengers,
Hmm.
and you can let them say what you want, and then you can think within now with like press secretaries, and you know this idea of Mar-a-Lago face, and like it's it's almost like if we can get enough of a people to eroticize something like an image, what you can get away with. And like I'm
Yeah.
wondering if Susu is kind of like somehow speaking to that idea of like violence and atrocities, and then like the like eroticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because they're for like whatever reason they're keep like there's this constant like crossing of physical acts and then like this dream like fantasy
And
in this
that
section.
yeah, you're right. Maybe that's the kind of the connection of these four parts in here is there is always a fantasy in them of different types. One thing I don't want to forget that I just want to say really quickly is the lost rings, the lost wedding ring, that came up earlier, did it not? That was
Yes.
in
Yeah.
Yes.
that earlier part, but it was told differently and the story was different.
Yeah. It almost made me feel like it was a second incident,
Oh,
but I don't,
I thought it was just another retelling, but that your memory
yes.
changes each time you want to tell something.
But
Yes.
again, it's about
Yes.
responsibility. Like if I go on vacation and I lose something, I immediately it was housekeeping.
It was they stole it. I don't want to call them
Frickin' they
because
stole it.
that,
Hey, I'm not going to be that person, but like I'm pretty sure they did. I don't want them to lose their job. It's
you
like,
know,
no, you asshole! You forgot to unplug it. You left it. You left it in the drawer. You're like, it was you. You lost it. You were responsible. No, no, no. It was.
as someone who loses things constantly, including my wedding ring,
But
I'm
like
on board
losing,
that it's something else. It's
but
someone
losing
else.
it on vacation, like, oh, it was the circumstance. Like, had I been my normal routine, it would have been fine. Or like, it's again,
And that's
and like,
another
I want
incident.
to point fingers at her and laugh at her, but really, I gotta like check. You have to constantly check yourself. Like, sure, maybe you're not that hyperbolic, egregious of an like an example, but dude, you're that.
Yep. And that's it.
Don't pretend like you're not.
Yep. That is like this like stretch from 526 through 529 of that sort of thinking, that sort of mentality of like learning also what you're saying, Brian, of like learning from even like the mom from that situation, learning again how you blame others, how it's someone else's fault. Like it's been the holidays, been around family, been around situations that for a lot, I think I'm not alone, are uncomfortable or can be uncomfortable when it comes to like political or bigoted views. And
Hmm.
you just see like shit, like this is part of a different like people you're connected to, a different generation. They did learn, and what did I pick up from them? Do I have these impulses? But this part, like this line can be from today. It was the fault, my father said, of those who let these people into the country in the first place when there were few enough jobs, little enough food, shrinking opportunities, a small number of positions of prominence, already enough spicks, bohunks, wops, and kikes to go around. That is today. That could be said today, and you would have nothing. That's a tweet, like almost like verbatim, I bet. Like that's
Yeah.
Oh,
their.
I figured that was somebody from the Iroquois Nation in 1700. No, you can just keep applying it. Like
Yep.
it never ends. Just keep going, keep going, keep going back. It works every time.
We didn't need you guys. We don't have enough jobs.
Everything was great until these fucking Phoenicians. I mean, who are these? What are they doing here?
Yep. I also love the part right before that when he's talking about I found my father's fury foolish, typically half-cocked, old-fashioned, stick in the mud like that salt in the box when his dad is making fun of the toot toots. And so you see the moment of Kohler's not there yet. Kohler's not the big he's the kid that's rebelling. He's the kid who's saying, you're like, why are you saying all these things? Like, they're fine. Like that, yeah. He's like, why are their laundry? The dad's like, the laundry's all over the place, all over this. He's like, they're just drying it. Like he's the rebellious, like right-minded one that then transforms. And that transformation is like real. But in here he's like, but he and his neighbors, incompetent as they were in their resistance, were nevertheless right. Then you go down like he's saying, like, they were clannish, they wouldn't give an inch, they had a double standard, one for us and one for them. They encouraged their kids to continue with their own language, to maintain their own customs and habits. Then like he's talking about what their problems are. They undercut us. They need to, become more assimilated. Eventually, the facts began to slip away into the realm of myth, where all facts go in order to remain immortal. Again, that's today. That's another tweet. You say all these things, it becomes this immortal mythical truth about whomever. Somalis are all filled with grift or like cheating. The people are like, it's just like, oh yeah, for a lot of people that are of this mindset, that's now just like a true thing that exists in some ether. Like
Yeah.
bullshit, like racist nonsense, and like there's no facts anymore. It's just a
Oh,
myth.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like when you're a kid, you're free, and so you can look at others and like be more like, what's the big deal? Who cares? Like, right? Like,
And
and then you get a little bit older and you start having responsibilities. You start owning things. You start collecting things. You have fences. You have, I need to get my sleep tonight. I can't be bothered. And then you think back to the quote unquote good old days, also known as the days when you were free and had no responsibility.
what just happened?
I have no idea. I got a balloon. The good old days, balloons, and so you long for that, and you blame others, or you blame the changing times, inevitable evolution. But like you blame that for your current circumstance, and it's like again, it's an escape. It's somebody else's fault. It's not like
there's related to that in a way like where people are always saying like you start out as like a radical and you end up as a conservative as you age. There's this I've been reading, got as a from one of our fans, the Canopus and Argos collection of all 5 books, endorsed Lessing's like sci-fi writings. And I started the first one. I'm not super far into it, but it's amazing. But one of the parts that I like almost set it down for a little bit was that it's going through these different sort of potential characters that could have been made better. I'll explain this on some other podcast, but that there's a moment where like this alien race can come to Earth, do something, and it'll change the outcome of this person's life and society as a whole and get it back on track to being good. And one of them is a labor organizer who's like gets super like cracks up and loses his shit when he realizes that everyone that he's been, advocating for that's now getting money only wants to be a capitalist, has been totally co-opted. Everything that they were saying is like not real anymore. And he's like, he loses his mind and goes nuts and like tries to put himself on trial so that he can be judged for his own like belief system. And I was like, fuck, man, this is like the tunnel too. Also, this is super depressing. I can't do
Yeah.
that. But super good. Anyways, we should probably wrap up. Is there any other sections from this that you wanted to point out or ideas about Susu or being a bigot or driving?
Um,
No, go ahead. Sorry,
no,
Kaya.
no, go ahead. Mine was going to be a joke. Yours seems serious.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like at this point, like this book absolutely has its hooks in me in so many ways. Like it is, uh, I'm floored at the momentum that it has picked up, what it's been able to like carry and hold. I was really on the fence the first 100 pages. Like, ah, God, I feel terrible for suggesting this. Damn it,
That's
I did it again.
interesting.
You son of a
What
bitch.
what
And
changed for you?
um, it was the beginning was so like chaotic and frazzled, and I didn't have any footing, and I wasn't sure how to find my way into it or understand it. I didn't get the hiding things in the leaves of the page. Like it was just like too progressive of a book as far as the form that I was having a hard time with. And now that I realize like none of that actually matters at all,
Yeah.
just 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 read it and let this person work it out. It's I don't know. It's for me like it's like reading Pale Fire or one of those books that just like it's it's delightful like when you start thinking about the different uh, levels that you can enjoy the reading.
Absolutely, totally agree. So
Yeah.
for next
Absolutely.
week, we're going to cover the next section, which is going to the river, which if you're looking, I need to update it, but I put the wrong page numbers on our initial post about the reading schedule. This goes from page 534 up to page 632. So this is a giant section. There are two instances where the last Philippic outcast on the mountains of the heart is in here, and I didn't choose the next chapter. I chose the next section of the previous chapter. So this is a big one just for anyone who's reading along. And for both of you, be warned, it's not a one night experience. None of these are, but this one's definitely not. But after that, other than that, that's all cool. Well, let's just end with our favorite lines from this week. So anyone want to go first? I mean, everything that I have is pretty offensive. So
Well, I'll start and let's see if you do any better than I do. On four, I think let me check. I think it's on 478. And the line is, what the hell is the use of such a life if you can't have mashed potatoes in the morning and a good fuck at night?
had that one marked 100%.
Mine's a little more serious for once in my life. I'm gonna go on 485. It's one line and it's kind of long, but we've had a lot of books that had very long lines, and so I want to give Gas his flowers here for how like delicious this sentence is on 485. Bury their belly aches along with their bellies in some suitable box, perhaps beneath the peaceful springs of mattress of my maiden aunt, who kept there the lingerie no lover would ever look at, as well as quiet piles of pretty Christmas paper she admired enough while it was costuming a gift that after she had seen it painstakingly unwrapped, ribbons undone, and seals snapped, she carefully pressed it flat to store in neat stacks under her sleep, as though rescued from use and waiting like the lingerie for the right eyes. It might be worn once more at her dream daughter's wedding or on another Yuletide, dress a cheap ring like a royal jewel.
Damn, that's
This guy
really
is
Yeah.
insane. This guy is
Yep.
insane. Holy
So
cow.
good.
so good. I don't
And then
know.
just before that, mashed potatoes and fucking. Like who
I
who
know.
are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Who are you? Truly, who are you?
I love that part. So I guess the one. No, I don't know what to choose, man. I have all these ones that are marked that are like super offensive or like offensive because they represent things. But one of them was this was their reward for being good citizens, patriots, workers. They were America, damn it, and Americans should come first, first, last, and march in time. My father chanted, and that was another of the ones where I was just like, again, today, that's it, America first. So depressed about everything that that's the part that was resonating with me this week and sticking in my mind. So, anyways, we'll be back next week. We are 2 episodes from the end of this. Next week's a big one, and then I believe Ted will be back to sum this all up. At which point, hopefully, we'll have even more to say on the whole structure of it and about various things that people have said or written about it. You can like us. You can find us on YouTube, on I was going to say Twitter, which we are definitely not on YouTube, on anywhere you get your podcasts, on the Substack, and we will be back.
Could we start a truth social?